Welcome to the LivXplore podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit like and subscribe. Welcome, everyone. I'm Payne, founder of LivXplore Real Estate and Lifestyle, and I have with me Isaiah Chass, our founding agent. Isaiah, welcome.
Absolutely. Today we have a 4-part series on property management.
Yep. This is gonna be a little bit different than normally. Yeah, we've put together a series on property management, and so this is gonna it's just a basic guide to try to help you find, to locate and select the best tenant possible for your next rental that way. So Isaiah, you want to jump into, obviously the first step is figuring out what you want to rent it for. So that's a good starting point. So why don't you tell us how you go about doing that?
Absolutely. So obviously first step, determining your list price. This can be tricky because there's a lot of external factors involved between seasonality, neighborhood aesthetics, whether it's furnished or unfurnished. Obviously, typically, things rented during the summer months can rent for a little bit higher than something rented during the winter months. There's also landlord emotion that gets involved, and that can be a big factor.
Right.
A lot of times, just the emotion involved when you own a property, you tend to think your property is a little bit more valuable than it might be. So that's the biggest thing. You don't want to get your emotion involved and let that get in the way of what it really might be worth. There's kind of 3 different ways that you can approach the rental value and determining that, one of which being a market analysis. You look at similar comps, properties with similar square footage, similar bedroom count, bathroom count, lot size, kind of in general region of that, and get an idea of what similar homes have sold for. Similar homes have rented for. You also want to look at historical trends. What if it's been rented in the past, what it rented for, and around that area, what similar homes rented for as well. Also, you can look at online sites that use artificial intelligence. You can look at Zillow and Rentometer. Those are all sites that you can utilize to get kind of a baseline of what it could rent for. But you have to keep in mind that those sites, especially in areas of Sonoma County that are very different, even 2 doors down, it's hard to use these sites that use artificial intelligence because it can't really distinguish the major differences that you see in Sonoma County.
Right.
You go to Sacramento and it's a little bit better because you have a block of 200 homes and they're all pretty similar, but around here it's a little bit difficult. So once you determine your price that you're going to advertise it to rent at, then you're going to have to get into information that you're going to include in your ad.
Right. Yeah, no, advertising obviously is super important that way. And before you rent out your home, take some time and look at rental listings. The rental market's really interesting in that, we come from the sales side. And so the marketing and sales, especially like in the last, I'd say like 5 or 10 years, have become so much more competitive, important that way, that you really want your home to shine when you're selling it. But now, same thing when you're renting it out. You really want your marketing to look good, to attract as many good tenants as possible that way. You'll see a wider range of quality of advertising in the rental market. You'll see the thumb in the iPhone photo and things like that. You really want to avoid that. You want to use high quality photos. Try to make the property in the room see as large as possible that way. And then in the advertising itself, you want to be clear, concise. Not have you want to talk about the specifics of the property and the features of the property. But you don't want really long paragraphs that are drawn out that you're going to lose interest in. White space there's nothing wrong with white space in advertising. Bullet points and high quality photos is really where it's out that way. You want to include information. You want to give as much information as possible so you're not spinning your wheels and talking to tenants that the property won't work for or they don't qualify for. So, really put in the layout and the size of the rooms. It's not done much in property management. we do it here, but we create floor plans for each property that we manage. We recommend that you do the same that way, so that people know what they're getting. But if you can't do that, at least list out the home. So like 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, things of that nature. Put together a pretty good description of the property so people can understand what the layout is that way with your photos. And then appliances, list everything. Like if you're going to do washer and dryer, if that's included, you should list that. Even if you have garbage disposal, dishwasher, things of that nature, spell everything out, and it doesn't hurt to take a picture of each of those items and include it in the advertising that way. And also you want to spell out your pet policy. Decide it beforehand before you market the home, what you want to do with pets. And we'll talk about this throughout this series, because there's certainly advantages to taking pets these days. But you want to make sure a lot of websites that you advertise to, they're going to require that you state a pet policy. And if you don't, it's going to limit, you won't come up in as many searches that way. So just be conscious of that. And then also have some idea or objective criteria to qualify these tenants. If you're looking for a certain rental amount, in the ad, I would suggest that you state the security deposit and like the monthly income you're looking for to support that rental amount that way. So that way, you're not showing it to someone who says, "Oh, I love it," but then they can't qualify for the home. All that is really important to do it. And then also, I'd recommend putting together like open house times. Don't just show the home at people's convenience, but put together a couple times, like during the week. Maybe there's a weekend time, and maybe like a during the week evening time that people can make it. But advertise those times. That way, you're not like. Again, we come from the sales side, so you certainly are working with people, and they just disappear on you at times. They maybe it's like an internet lead or whatever, and they've changed their mind, and all of a sudden they disappear. Well, that's like amplified in the rental market, right? You're
at least 50%.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So you can put a new home on, and you have like 4 or 5 people that want to see it, and they set appointments, and then all of a sudden. They disappear. It can be discouraging at times. And those are the same people that may not be qualified and things of that nature, kind of don't have their act together that way. So that's why it's really good to have like open house times. And 2, like I always think it's advantageous to when leasing the home to have like 2 parties through, because then they know that there's multiple parties interested that way in the property that way. So that's those are kind of like the basics of the advertising. And getting into that, you have to follow all fair housing laws at all times. Each state's a little bit different. So if you're listening to this and you're outside of California, please do your research that way. But the Fair Housing Act of 1968 protects people from discrimination against race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability, as well as California has an additional layer of that can't be discriminated against, and it's changing all the time. So look it up and make sure that your advertising isn't discriminating against one of those parties that way.
And that's a very easy way to get yourself into trouble if you're not careful about.
Right. No, exactly. And people assume like I'm not going to jump into it, but like just saying little things like walking distance to downtown, things of that nature. You're potentially discriminating against someone with a disability that way. So you have to be very careful. If someone comes in when you're showing the property and is of a certain racial ethnicity, and they want to know what the racial profile is of the neighborhood, you can't answer those questions that way. Again, you have to be really careful. And
even if they're walking in, you can't ask if they have a significant other or a boyfriend or girlfriend.
Right. No, exactly. That'd be marital status, things of that nature. So you have to be very careful. The best thing to do is come up with like just a list of what you're going to say at the open house, and as people come in, just state those terms and things of that nature. That keeps you on track. So that way you're not asking questions to one party that you didn't ask to the other one, even if they're not somewhat of like it seems like you're talking about protected classes or anything like that. And then also you have to be careful regarding service animals and pets are two different things that way. So you cannot if someone has a service animal, you cannot discriminate against them from having that animal. So that's something really important to look at. They have to have a letter from verify the license of the a doctor has to provide a letter, and it's important to do a quick Google search, look up that doctor. I know that there's a lot of these letters are sometimes faked that way. So it's something to do a little bit due diligence to make sure it's real that way.
Now, that being said, you can't contact their doctor and ask why they need that service animal. That's a
great point. So yeah, you can do your due diligence, make sure that verify that doctor's license, look them up, but do not contact them. And again, you can't, if you find that, if you think it's suspicious or something like that, you can't go out, you can't become a private investigator and start asking questions. But you want to make sure there are, if you look up online, there are services that'll be like, hey, make your dog a service animal, or at least there used to be, and you could just have it, a certificate printed out. Make sure that you're not getting one of those. And also, you can't refuse a spot, like a parking spot, for a tenant with disability. You have to make a reasonable accommodation. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to make I'm not going to tell you what that is, but if you have a tenant with a disability that approaches you and asks for accommodation, what I'd recommend is reaching out to a real estate attorney at that time and seeing, what exactly that would be that way. Also, you have to be careful of, like I said, come up with a list of questions or criteria for the property, and don't deviate from that. When you're talking to people and when you're making your decision, you don't want to. You want to be able to document your decisions of why you chose that person. Great credit score, lots of reserves, things of that nature, good tenant history, things of that nature, good references. You don't want to, if for some reason you chose one person over the other, and the person that didn't get selected, made a case, and you say, well, I just had a bad feeling about you. That is not a good thing to say. You don't want to say, hey, well, I didn't qualify you off just a bad feeling that way. You want to document, create the criteria that you have, document the reasons why you chose the person you did off that criteria. Again, just in conversation saying, how many kids do you have, or something like that nature, that could be seen as discriminatory. Or, oh, you have a kid in college or something like that, that could be seen as discriminatory. So be very careful of that. Be very careful that way. Again, I think before you do any of this, just a quick Google search and familiarize yourself with, especially if you're in California, the state laws surrounding the fair housing that way. So.
Yeah. So getting back to pets.
Yep. Yeah. Let's go a little bit more into that because that is kind of a really sticky situation. So why don't you?
Yeah. I mean, since the beginning of the pandemic, in my experience that I've seen, everyone has an animal. It just became amplified during the pandemic when everyone was staying at home. Everyone wanted, an animal to be with. So I've found very, very few potential tenants that do not have an animal of some sorts.
Right.
Hypoallergenic dogs are all the rage right now. Everyone has them, and it's something that you have to look at as a landlord when you're advertising. Is that when you cut out the possibility for pets, you're probably going to reduce probably 50% of potential tenants that you could have in that home. So it's just something to understand. Right. Just in the changing times of, in the past, historically, no one wants to have pets as a landlord. Everyone wants, that renter that doesn't have a pet, but that's not really realistic these days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even before COVID, we saw, things have changed for the last decade. I mean, pets are now more a part of the family life than I would say they were 20 or 30 years ago, where how often does someone tie their dog up to the tree in the backyard anymore? I mean, pets are really integral parts of their lives. So pet supply stores, it's been a booming business. Chewy and things like that over the last few years. So pets kind of had a different role in their family. But you're right. If you don't, if you're not going to consider pets, you're going to knock out a lot of really well qualified renters, and some of them may take their pet to work with them. They may work from home, things of that nature. So it's just something to think about, rather than just, we wouldn't suggest a hard no right off the bat that way.
Right.
So.
And that being said, you also have to look at certain breeds of dogs. So you'll have to check with your insurance policy as a landlord, but a lot of those policies will not cover certain breeds.
Right.
I know Belgian Malinois are on that list. I think pit bulls are on that list.
Yeah, I think pit bulls are, although I've rescued pit bulls for like 30 years now, have a couple of them, and some of those have loosened up a little bit, but there certainly are breed restrictions, even German Shepherds, Rottweilers, things like that. So that's something to look into. Just make sure that your insurance policy, what restrictions there are that way. So
right, yeah. So at the end of the day, it's probably not a bad idea to be open to pets of some sort, but you do want to check with your insurance policy, see if that's okay, and understand what kind of pet is going to be in the home. Moving away from that, advertising on certain websites. What is the best way to get your property out towards potential renters in front of them?
Yeah, so we are in the North Bay area, just about 40 miles north of San Francisco in Sonoma County in wine country. And I would say Sonoma, Mendocino, Napa, even Marin, we don't have like a one-stop shop for rentals that way. So, I'd recommend, listing it on, Zillow, I think, is a really good website to listen to up here because they syndicate to various websites.
Yeah, Zillow posts, they have a syndication through HotPads,
right.
I believe apartments.com, and also Trulia.
Yeah. Now, while those websites in themselves don't have strong footholds up there, I think people do use Zillow that way. As agents, we often put them on MLS as well. So if you're renting your own property, you're not going to have that option that way, but that's also syndicated about. But I think around here, if you're renting it yourself, Craigslist is still a viable way. People still put properties on Craigslist that way. But yeah, I would do what I would do is I would recommend doing a search for rentals in your market, and then look at the websites that come up in the first page, and kind of figure out from there where you need to list them at. Facebook Marketplace, that's really in the last couple of years becoming more and more of a place that rentals are put on that way. But Zillow, Trulia, Zumper, PadMapper, HotPads, Apartments.com. There's many others. They all have different market shares, so look into them that way. And then, once your home is advertised, track the number of inquiries you get on, each day in each website. If you have a few inquiries over the first few days of advertising it, and you're not getting a whole lot of traction, maybe there's an issue. If you're getting a lot of views but you're not getting inquiries, maybe there's something going on. Maybe it's your marketing. You want to take some new photos. Maybe you're overpriced and you don't want to hear it. But definitely look at the number of views you're getting and the number of inquiries, and that'll give you an idea of is your marketing working? Is it not that way? On
top of that, check in with people that have seen the home, and if they don't want to submit an application, why is that they don't want to submit an application? Is the security deposit too high? Is it because you're not allowing pets? Is it what's the reasoning behind it? And that will help you better prepare your advertising, your marketing, and even the details of pricing moving forward of trying to get a potential renter if it's not working as is.
Right. That's a great point. So once you've had the marketing out there and you get those inquiries now, how's the best way to once you get the inquiry, what's the best way to respond and make sure that you get the highest likelihood of them going through the home that way?
Yeah, so obviously once they respond to the advertisement, you want to be quick to respond to them. It's easy to, when I first started showing rental properties, I always was about getting, showing them as quick as possible. You do get stood up quite a bit. So that's going back to what you said about having set times. It's nice to have a block maybe on a Friday evening or a Saturday afternoon that everyone comes through. But you want to, get them through the home, and then also have an application for them as soon as possible so that they can go through the application process, and you're not wasting everyone's time. If they love the home but they're not going to submit an application, then that's probably not going to work out.
Right. The next episode, we'll talk about how to show your rental property during these times. So that will be coming out here soon in the next couple of days. So pay attention to that. I'm Sean Payne, founder of LivXplore. Hopefully you've enjoyed this first part of this rental series. I have Isaiah Chass here as well. Isaiah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. We'll see.
Oh, sorry. And we will be doing 2, 3, and 4 here coming up very soon. So
see you guys soon.
Okay. Bye. Welcome to the LivXplore podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit like and subscribe.